Welcome to Tent Talks.
I'm Missy.
And I'm Mariah. I'm a certified nurse midwife, and I'm a mom of 3 children, 7 and younger.
I'm a mom of 5, pregnant with my 6th. And we came together because we're women, just like you, and we saw a need. So we created a platform and a community for women called Beyond the Red Tent.
Right.
And we're taking it one step further.
To Tent Talks. So Tent Talks is a space where you can come and learn from vetted experts, real women that are willing to share their courageous stories about topics of holistic women's health.
And so you're here. We understand life is full. You're a busy woman. So this is only going to be about 30 minutes of a beautiful talk with either an expert or a real woman like yourself. So grab a cup of tea, sit back, and enjoy.
Right. Well, hello Beyond the Red Tent community. I am Mariah Brown. I'm one of the co-creators over here at Beyond the Red Tent along with Missy. And we're really excited today to have Annie Fuller. She is a spiritual healer. She's been called a miracle worker. And she's done work around the globe in Hungary, Tibet, Mexico, Peru. You can read her bio up above. And, you know, for me to introduce her, I've had personal experience with her, so I wanted to just start there. In 2007, one morning, I woke up and I had lost use of my left arm. And that lasted for about 6 months. We tried all different options. And some good friends of mine suggested that maybe I have a session with Annie. And I didn't necessarily know what I was getting myself into, but it was miraculous. We spent, I want to say, a couple hours together. There was a support person there to hold space for me, and also be there to drive me afterwards, because I think I was a bit in a kind of altered state. And with Annie, she introduced me to the idea of soul retrievals. She really saw a part of me when I was 4 or 5 years old, and it was very real to what was going on in my life at that time in my life. And she had that conversation with that part of me that had left. And in the scenario, I was out jumping from star to star, and she was having that conversation saying, come back, come back. And she had me on the table with her hands on my feet and channeled a surgery. That's the best I can say. And the next couple of days, it was exactly what she said it would feel like. It literally, I remember waking up the next morning feeling as though there had been a surgery on my spine. And within 2 days, I was up using my arms again. And my husband and I went to, well, we weren't married yet, but Michael and I went to ecstatic dance. And so it was really my first introduction to what felt like kind of unexplainable miracle work. And so I'm just really thankful to have Annie here. She's done amazing work in her life, historically as a midwife and a spiritual healer. And so I guess, Annie, if you're open, just starting with kind of, how did you get to this place of doing the work that you do? Yeah.
Thank you for that really nice introduction. I think that really this has been my destiny. So my whole life has been an evolution to this present moment in time. You know, so that I can talk about forever. But the short story is, I was a home birth midwife. I had a big trauma in my life then, and of course, I had big traumas in my life as a child. And I ended up being interested in healing in a different way. I had always worked in midwifery. I'd always worked with energy. I'd worked with emotions. I worked a lot of ways people weren't working. And so, but after that big trauma in my 40s, I just, it's like I woke up. Trauma wakes us up. It either brings us down or wakes us up. So we take the opportunity when we realize we have it. And then since then it's been an evolution. I realized I needed to learn about shamanism. I realized I needed to learn about soul retrieval. I realized I needed to learn about hands-on healing, and on and on and on and on. And and then I eventually stopped midwifery. But throughout my path, I have mostly been taught by the spirits. I'm an empirical learner. I was an empirical learner with midwifery and certainly with this work. So, and I'm always learning every single day, every single healing, always learning. That would be the short story.
What does it look like when someone comes to you? Where do you begin with them?
Okay, the first thing that I do is we open a ceremony. I always work in ceremony because it allows me to fully prepare myself, to empty myself, and to pray to be a miracle healer for that person, to call in all the people, as I call them, from the other realms, who work through me on behalf of whoever's there. So we open a ceremony. That's where the most power is, I feel. And then I sit and listen to the person, and listen and listen and feel, and ultimately get a sense of how I can help them formulate an intention. Because on one hand, I believe intention is irrelevant, because I've done healings without intention, and the spirits move through, the work happens, and it's amazing. But I like to help someone create an intention, because we're all in an awakening process. And so with intention, that becomes the foundation for how the person can integrate their healing experience after they leave the healing room. They're just in the healing room for 2.5 hours, and then they're in their life. And that's where everything unfolds. So with intention, their intention can ground them in the unfoldment.
So you mentioned stories before we got started.
Yeah.
That people love the stories. So I want you to be a storyteller for a minute and tell us a story.
I'm a big storyteller. So I wrote down a couple of ideas that might be good to tell. So a woman came in, this was a long time ago, really, really, really bad menstrual cramps. And what was discovered in the healing, because what I do as a spiritual healer, like I mentioned, I have people in the other realms who work through me. And these are relationships that I've developed just like in this reality, except they're not in this reality. They're masters of healing in another realm, other realms and realities. And I also channel light. When Mariah mentioned that I put my hands on her feet, it's because I allow the light of love from my center to move down my arms and out my hands into the person's feet, body, entire energy bubble or soul. So an energetic purification is always important. But anyway, so what I discovered when I was at the feet of this woman is that she had a cord of energy from her second chakra, where the menstrual cramps are happening, to a core belief somewhere in the energetic realms about her sexuality that was not positive. So every month when she was bleeding, she lost energy because this belief was fed and this belief was feeding her. So a main task of that healing was for her to recognize this, speak about it during the healing, and then cut that cord and reclaim her energy. And then the next month she didn't have any menstrual cramps because she had that energy accessible to her within her body, as opposed to it being leaking out into something completely dysfunctional. So that's one great and little example of the work. But I have more.
Can I ask a question about that as before you go on to the next story?
Yeah.
Because I know you also do virtual work. So with me and with that example, you could put your hands physically on the person. But when you're doing remote work, let's say there's a woman in Australia that's watching this,
Right.
and she wants to schedule a session with you. Does it feel the same? Are you tuned into the energy in the same way, or what does that look like?
I do the work in a different way, but it's really profound. I'm always amazed. I am amazed at how it goes. So I personally like when people come because I love people and I just love how it is. But everybody can't come. And so I just worked with a woman who, through a distant healing, who had been depressed almost her entire life, suicidal, tried every single modality that exists, alternative and traditional, and nothing was helping her. And she just was sitting and considered herself a broken person. So I did a distant healing for her, and I didn't hear from her for about a week. And I thought, oh, I hope she's okay. But she got in touch with me and she was completely changed. So how did I do that healing? Of course, like I said, I have people who help me. But when I'm working distant, I go in my healing room, I open the ceremony. And then if you walked in on me, it would look like I was sleeping in the chair. But I do it all with my eyes closed in a deep inner space that seems to create a good change. I can't even tell you really how I do it, but I know that the distant healings are equally as powerful as the in-person healings. Mm-hmm. And that's always amazing to me. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing to the people that get to receive it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
so really quickly before we go, I want to touch on the book that you're writing.
Okay.
That is about the human soul. So could you just tell us a little bit about that and what is the human soul and what can people expect in this book that's coming hopefully soon?
You want me to tell you just a little bit?
Tell us a lot.
So I'm going to try to be succinct. Okay. The words soul and spirit have been interchanged. Okay. And that's because they're the same but they are also different. So we are spirit light within soul, energy bubble within body. So the soul is only necessary when we're in form. And the soul, like I said, is a bubble of energy around us that holds the keys to our health and happiness. Really, it's like I call it a living library. It's everything within the landscape of the soul. It affects us on every level of our being. And so I'm writing about the soul. I call it the human soul bridge between spirit and human because it really is the bridge. And it's the goal is to have an energetic bubble or soul around us that is like full of refined energy so that the light of who we are as spirit can radiate out and everything, and then of course radiate back because everything within the soul mirrors back to the body. So illness and suffering means there's heavy energy within the soul. And that's my work, is the refinement of the heavy energy, helping people come into the present moment. Whether healing means living or happily, or healing means dying consciously. Healing is healing. And so I'm writing about the soul, the purpose of the soul, the wisdom of the soul, how the soul serves us as a nurturing mother, and telling lots of stories to help people awaken to what's going on and how they can become more whole themselves and just live more joyful lives. Most people are not happy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, so then if we look at all the things that you do, and let's say there's a woman that's listening to this and she's really finding herself leaning into you and feeling like, I feel called to interact potentially in my own personal healing journey with you. So Annie, you do one-on-one sessions. Are there retreats? Are you still doing vision quests? There's the book. Can you just touch a little bit on the various ways in which you're interacting with people as a spiritual healer?
Okay. Of course, I see people in my healing room. And of course, I do distant healings all the time. And I just completed a shamanic journeying workshop, which I will do again in January, as well as I'm starting my spiritual healing class in January. Once again, I haven't taught that for a couple of years, but and that will be, it's a 6-month commitment, 3 days a month here in Chico. So that's what's happening now as far as what I'm doing. Then I put out blogs periodically so people can always read those if they're on the mailing list.
And are you still doing retreats in Peru?
I have, I just got through the campfire. So that's been the past year. And the year before that, I just took a friend. So people have been asking me about Peru. And so I'm not going to say that I'm never doing that again. But if I did do that again, it wouldn't be until next summer, early fall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the vision quests. I know you quested in
Right.
Southern Oregon for years.
Yeah, so for 15 years, I intercessed a healing quest for a week at a time every August. And quest for now is complete. And I don't see a future in quest, but I also know that I never know what I'm going to do, because sometimes I think I'm not doing anything and then someone will request it and then a whole class ends up forming. So, but right now, quest appears to be complete.
So if you're looking to vision quest.
Yeah, you could annoy me and then I'll go, oh no. Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Missy? Do we want to add one more story, or do we feel like we're good for now?
I would love to hear one more story.
I want to tell you one more story because this story really blew me out. I was in Prescott, Arizona doing healings. This woman came in and I had an apprentice with me, which made me really happy because I had a witness. She came in, she was super hunched over, kind of big, hunched over, maybe in her 60s, and she told me her name. I'll pretend her name is Sarah. And she said, "Hello, I'm Sarah. I'm very hard to deal with." She was like really heavy energy and distant. I couldn't even believe she was there. But anyway, she didn't want to talk about her life. She didn't want to talk about her past. So she got on the table and she lay there and I put my hands on her feet. And the short story is the energetic purification took place. And as I moved up her body, my teachers brought me to a part of her soul. Soul retrieval is a big part of what I do. It's not the only thing, but it's something that people can read about. There are some really good books on soul retrieval. I found a part of her soul in another realm, and it was hunched over, attached to some kind of metal, heavy metal chains, and behind her was this huge metal ball. So she was slowly kind of, I couldn't tell what she was doing, pulling the ball, trying to get away from the ball, hunched over. I spoke with that part of her soul. I asked if she would like me to take off all of the binds, which she did. So then she wasn't attached to anything anymore. We took her to my healing waters for healing and replenishing. I'm not doing this alone. I'm with my teacher. I'm with the power animal when I do a journey. I never do anything alone. So I restored this I did a healing for this part of her soul. I restored this part of her soul to her. And as soon as I was done, she automatically sat up on the table, and she was sitting up straight, and she was glowing. And she had been hunched over. And I looked at her, and I looked at my apprentice, and I was in shock. And short story, she walked straight for the rest of her life.
Oh.
And I asked my friend, the naturopathic doctor who referred her, like, what? But all she could say to me was, yeah, she had a miracle healing. So, but I learned something really important, that the state of a soul part in another realm of reality has a radical effect, not just emotionally or psychologically or energetically on us in this reality, but physically. That's something I didn't know. And so the shifting of that part, the taking off all of those chains, allowed her in the other realms to stand up straight, which allowed her in this reality to defy medical science and all that goes on with the back and stand up straight. That's a story I love. It was amazing.
Wow. So it sounds like even to you, someone who's been doing spiritual healings for years and years, that the work that comes through you, through your teachers, surprises even you.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like midwifery. If you stop thinking it's a miracle when you see a person come out of another person, then you can't do it anymore. So for me, it's a constant, I'm in constant amazement. Sometimes healings are similar because, there's certain things that are similar, but most of the time I am amazed, and I'm always learning new things about human psychodynamics, and how that affects the energetic, and how the energetic affects the human, and not just the psychodynamics, but also on the physical, our whole physical body, our health. Yeah, I have a lot of amazing stories.
And I think the other thing that I just have to say is, with Missy and I, with Beyond the Red Tent, we really perpetually have this vision of trying to bring in vetted experts for this community, because there's so many people out there that will say, I'm the expert on XYZ, and it can feel very convoluted and confusing. What's the best way to eat? Who's the best healer? Who's the best provider? What's the best product? And, one of the reasons I wanted to really bring Annie in is because I've had personal, profound experience with her. I have friends who have had personal, profound experience with her. And I think when we're working with our bodies and energy, it's really important that we don't just go to anyone and everyone. And so I'm just really excited to bring you, Annie, to this community, and hopefully open up some people's minds to other possibilities. Maybe for you, this is kind of going, whoa, I've never even heard about this. And just to kind of open up to options. And for those of you that are really entrenched in the spiritual world, and maybe you're already a spiritual healer, maybe you're looking for that new person, I think Annie's amazing. And I don't say it lightly, but I really feel like she does do miracle work. And so I'm just thrilled to bring her in as a real vetted expert to say she does the right work with the right energy for those that are looking for it.
Thank you. Can I say one more thing quickly?
Mm-hmm.
I've had so many people come to see me who are sick on some level or another, and are seeing me as the last resort. And I get frustrated because I wish they had come to see me in the beginning, because it would have been a lot easier. Things can really get, on one hand, they can get set, and it can be harder to resolve or take longer. But then like at that woman, the story I just told you, like that was her whole life. So you never really know what's going to happen. But I really hope people who are suffering from anything and are not getting resolution, I hope they can stay open. They don't have to come to see me, but just be open and and when someone suggests something, don't say, I don't believe in it, because you don't have to believe in it, but it might really completely heal your whole life, whatever it might be. Because when we say we don't believe in it, then we get stuck in a template of reality that isn't necessarily serving us when we could be served in other ways. So, of course, I wish people would come to a spiritual healer right in the beginning. They do that in other cultures, but our culture is not caught up with that yet.
Yeah. And what about of course, I've got more questions. What about for the woman or the person who says, I don't have anything that I think needs to be healed, and yet I'm feeling kind of drawn to, maybe to you, Annie, or to another spiritual healer. There's value for the people who don't have something glaring that they need to, or that they think they need to have healed to come to you. Would that be a correct assumption, or?
Well, here's the deal. We're all human beings. We all have something. Because what I would do, like sometimes a person comes and we open a ceremony, and then it's like, okay, what can I do for you? What is your miracle? I don't know. I'm just wanted to have an experience, or I'm fine. I don't really know. But the thing is, then when I talk to the person, well, do you have anything in your life that is any patterns of behavior that are hard to resolve? Everybody's got something. Do you have how's your health? Do you have any physical problems? Everybody has something. And so if they're in my healing room, I know it's important. And so it's my task to help them get to whatever the underlying core suffering is for them, even if they don't feel like they're suffering, so that they can resolve it and become more joyful in the present moment.
And then, like you said,
conversation.
Then it doesn't become the big thing later on, right? If they come to you.
No, it does not become the big thing, because the longer things sit, the bigger the things get. Yeah, that creates heavy energy in the body, in the soul, and ultimately creates an illness. Yeah.
Well, I feel honored to have been here chatting with you today. And I'm so grateful that Mariah had the experience she had so that she could bring you on and introduce you to our community. And I hope that you have all enjoyed it and that you feel, like Mariah said, maybe a little more open or inspired to try something new.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's been really fun. And I'm open to anybody. If anybody has questions, I'm glad to answer them on the email or however that goes.
Post down below, just comment, and we'll make sure to show Annie how to check those comments. And Annie, hopefully you can respond there. And the beauty of that is then as women are asking their questions and commenting and you're answering them, everyone in the community gets to benefit rather than it just being one-on-one communication. Good. And I'm just remembering I had a second session with you too, because then I had an abnormal pap smear. And then that pap smear ended up being normal afterwards. Anyway, I remember we had 2 sessions. Anyway, it's been lovely. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe.
And if you also want to take a peek at our website, it's right here.